Welcome back to Uncovered. Today, guys, we are going to talk about taking a break from pole and how to do this. We're going to say successfully, because I know there's a lot of times and a lot of different reasons we take breaks from pole, and then coming back can be very difficult in many different ways, which we'll talk about. So that's why we wanted to bring this episode to you guys, because we have a lot of conversations with people about what to do on your break, whether it's a holiday, financial, injury-based, and then how to sort of, integrate back into the studio and your community.
And I think it's really important because pole actually doesn't have an off-season. If your studio may close down over Christmas, but otherwise you're poling for like 50 weeks. Straight potentially, or 52 weeks straight, depending on what it is. So I think it's really important to talk about it too, because breaks are okay. And I feel like we get so worried about what we're going to miss out on. We get FOMO.
Yeah, and it's hard because it's like, obviously, most people take holidays during the year. There's a few people out there that don't take any holidays.
COVID kind of like.
COVID was like this forced break. So I guess some people have learned over COVID how to take breaks, that you can actually take a break and come back. And then obviously you have your holidays. And, the way studios are sort of set out is that, you might learn a few different things each week. So if you have like 2-3 weeks off, you might miss a chunk and you don't want to miss out. But yeah, I think that you can definitely take breaks from pole without, those feelings of, missing out or being left behind.
Yeah, and I think too, like, even when we were writing this episode and thinking about it, like, if you're a competitor and you're competing, even that doesn't have a downtime. So it is a constant thing. But, and you think about...
Sorry, finish. I was going to say is a lot of competitions, they don't talk with each other, and they don't, like, they're just like, okay, I'm going to organize it for this time of year.
Yeah.
I'm going to organize it for this time of year.
Yeah. And they just, like, I remember doing an assignment for uni, and I counted the number of competitions at that point in time based on all the information I could find. There's like over 50 comps. That's like one a week on average. And yes, some of them are in-house and some of them are social comps, but that's still a lot of competitions. And if you're really trying to work hard to make a place in the comp world and pole, like, when do you give your body a rest? Like, you think about bodybuilding and they have seasons, right? Like, you work towards your season because that's how you have to prep your body. So anyway, this isn't just about comps. This is just about every single one of us. If you're a pole dancer, you need to think about how you can strategically take breaks. So you might be thinking about taking a break for financial reasons, especially with COVID. A lot of that has changed. So, and the world is so much more volatile when it comes to work and stuff, and like we see it all the time, people coming through the studio who need to take a step back financially. Other reasons are obviously injury and pregnancy. We have seen the great baby boom, pole baby.
I know, this is going to go down in history. I feel like when I first started, like, it was so rare for a pole dancer to have a baby. I'm sure it was happening, maybe I just wasn't hearing about it. But now it's like all those big names, or all the pole dancers I guess you like grew up with are now having babies.
I wonder if it's just an Australian thing though.
Yeah.
Do you think Butterfly was having a baby at the same time? Yeah, but like, well, anyway, in
Australia, we are reproducing.
Yeah.
The next generation of pole dancers.
Yeah, they are definitely there. Give it about 18 years or whatever, maybe they'll probably
14 probably.
14, they're going to be on the poles. And so there's pregnancy obviously slows you down, and that's a whole thing in itself, and we've done episodes on that. So if you are pregnant or family planning, go back and check those ones out, because you will have to take a break, and that's just not going to be why I'm growing this baby. That could potentially be longer depending on your experiences. But yeah, injury. I think that's a really hard one, because that's a forced situation and it's outside. But other reasons
depends what kind of injury too. You might be able to do some aspects of pole and not others, which will then also really like mentally kind of
that's hard.
impact you, I guess, because you know, you might be able to keep doing some pole, but then you're seeing everyone else do everything that you want to do.
And then you're like, I know I'm here and it's great, but like, I'm just so over it. We had a girl in the studio recently who broke a finger, and obviously a finger is not that inconvenient, but inconvenient if you're a pole dancer. Actually, it is. I've broken a foot. It is pretty freaking inconvenient.
A toe as well. I've broken a toe, and you don't even realize. It was my little toe. Don't even realize how much you use it.
Yeah. So
well, not use it, but how much it's just there.
Yeah, and how much it impacts you. So she was doing flexi classes, which are fine, but she's like, man, I'm so over focusing on my bloody splits. Like, I just want to get back on the pole. So yeah, these are the things that may need you to slow down. And you know, then when we talk about injuries, you've also got general health, like your mental health, your emotional health, your spiritual health. Like,
definitely.
These things might not make you be like, you might walk into the studio and you just might not feel the same as you used to. So you might be feeling a little bit of a vibe there. But lastly, maybe you booked a bloody holiday and you're off to, I'm off to Singapore later this year, so I'm excited.
Oh, don't talk to me. I haven't booked anything yet.
We had a little bit of a conflict about who was taking holidays recently.
Yes. No, I normally have something booked and I just don't have anything. I've gone lots of little trips, like little weekend ones. So, but I want to go on a big trip.
Stay tuned for Renee's holiday.
Yes, I will keep everyone updated. Don't you worry.
So these are the reasons why you might be taking a holiday. Some of them are planned. Obviously, a holiday, a break.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm still on holiday.
Yeah, but when they are planned, you can obviously then plan for your break.
Yes.
So you could go, okay, well, I'm going to train really hard, and then I know that I'm going to have 2 weeks off, so that can be a little bit of a rest for me. Maybe I'll just do some light exercise, you know, depends what sort of holiday. You might be doing walking and stuff, so you might actually not even notice any difference. It might be good for you if you have been training really hard. Good time to take a break or a holiday is after a competition.
Oh, yeah. As long as, obviously you got the competition blues. I think the pole physio did something on that recently, actually. Like the come down of competitions. But, yeah, because you worked really bloody hard to get to that point. So how do you look after your body on the other side of it? So, yeah, but if you are thinking about taking a break, and you should be thinking about scheduling breaks if you can schedule breaks in. Like, there are a couple of things you could probably do to help set yourself up for success. And some of these things you can also do if you're now being forced to take a break because of an injury, pregnancy, financial impacts, those types of things. So through this episode, we're sort of going to talk you through how to set yourself up for success. Then we're going to talk about some feelings and how to prepare to return, because that's a big thing as well. Because I think that's where, if you listen to our one of our recent episodes about pole identity, that is a huge thing that might come up while you're on your break, especially if it's extended breaks. So we're going to try and cover it all, and some of it isn't going to be 100% applicable, but this is what, based on our experiences, what we think we can, what you guys can do to help move into breaks easily without without the non-pole blues.
What's the longest break you've had?
Like 6 months. Right, you?
I think mine was 3 months.
Is that when you went to America?
Yeah. There was one, and then that year I was traveling for about 6 months of the year on and off. So I come back and then go, come back and then go.
So you had a big chunk.
Big chunk of sort of time.
Yeah, mine was injury. Mine was when I did my rib cage. So, because we didn't know what it was and we thought we had to stop. So,
but I definitely felt after that 3 months, it was like, whoa, like mentally I know what I should feel like doing, but everything just felt so heavy.
Yeah. I remember the first break I took.
And sore.
The first break I took was a 3-week break to America, a holiday. And I came back and I'm like, this thing is something I do so easily, and I did it. I'm like, when did my butt get so heavy? I think it was like a shoulder mount or something.
Pole, and I keep saying this, especially so recently, pole is such an unforgiving sport. If you take time off it, like, it is honestly, in some ways, obviously you still have the muscle memory and stuff like that, but like, you don't keep at that level Like, and it
It can drop
depends.
pretty quickly, yeah.
And I think we have talked about this before, though it depends. Like, if you've been like a pole dancer for like 10 years, you can actually take longer off and come back and notice less difference. If you've been a pole dancer for 1 year and you take the same amount of time off, your like gains, I guess, will drop really quickly.
Is that just like muscle memory?
No, I don't know what the exact term for it is, but it happens in every sport. It's just how your body moves and how you've trained it as well.
I guess it's like that concept of like, you've got to do, like, it's say you're creating a new habit and you're like, you've got to do the reps for the habit to stick. So
yes.
it's like doing the reps and more, and obviously doing the reps for 10 years.
Yeah.
It makes it easier to come.
And you just know so well, I guess you've failed in so many different ways that your body, you just know how it feels and you're just so connected. I guess you've created those neurological pathways. So those don't disappear. They might just need more practice. Whereas when you're a beginner, you haven't really established that.
And there might be times that, like, we had a student a new student in recently who just came in for a level assessment. She hadn't poled in a while. And she's like, oh, I don't even think I'm going to be able to invert. And she, like, surprised herself. So taking a break can be good for you too. And I think that's where we probably need to move to as a community or as a industry, is like knowing that breaks are okay and knowing that you can do these and sometimes still surprise yourself when you get back. I think inverts are like the most unforgiving move though. Like, there are certainly, they suck. But anyway, so if you're thinking about having a break and you're a little bit unsure, if you are a rider, maybe you should journal about why you want to take the break. Like, are you not feeling it anymore? Are you just finding you're injuring yourself all the time? What are some other reasons?
And like, this is more so for a bit of a longer extended break. Not like we're not talking about a holiday here.
Yeah, this is like the things that are like
financial, you know, potentially, or injury, I guess, like you said, is sort of forced, but more so for taking a longer stint where you are separating yourself from pole for a bit.
Yeah, because we talk to a lot of people who are like, you know what, like, I just, like, every time I come in, this happens to me or this happens or whatever, and it's like, but they won't take the time off because they're so scared about what's going to happen if they take the time off, when really that time apart can actually help you mend that. So journaling could be a good way, or just talking to a close pole friend about how you're feeling.
You might find that other people have done it, and then you get some comfort in knowing that other people have done it for sure, and that have been quite successful.
Yeah, and like, there are so many people in the pole industry now, so there's definitely people around. So if you don't know where to start with talking to somebody, speak to somebody like an instructor or your studio owner or something, because one of the beautiful things that we get to do is have a lot of people's experiences come to us, I guess. I'm like, what's the word I'm looking for? So it's not just our experiences. We see other people go through these things. So we're able to share without sharing who it is, but we are able to share how other people have overcome these things. So yeah, that's a good way to start. And thinking about the next, how much time you think you might need. And that's obviously the reason. Financially, you might just be like, I need time. Just depends on what's going on. What you want to achieve from the break. Some, like we said, some of these breaks are a little bit uncontrollable. So what you want to achieve, like, I know personally when I have taken some breaks, it's like, this is just, for me, it was like, just like pole was like a yo-yo. It was an up and down, up and down, up and down. Every time I got somewhere, I would injure myself. So I was like, yeah, cool. Like, how long do I actually need to prepare myself in this? So yeah, that's another thing to think about, because you might not be able to take a month off, and it depends on what your studio's policies are for pausing and stuff like that. Like, you might need longer, and sometimes you might not need as long as you thought to. So
yeah, definitely chat to, most studios have some sort of
like freeze, pause,
or like, it's kind of like normal gym. So you know, for people that do go on holidays and that sort of stuff. So
yeah, because like, as a studio, like, those options are really good, because it means your people can, instead of losing them for the whole term, they can still have you for some of the term. And yes, that's a business principle, like, but that helps them. So like, have the chat with your studio if you're unsure of what they're their policies are.
Yeah. The other thing, I guess, is like you could take a break from part of pole and like not other part. Like some people take a break and go do something else, like aerials or some sort of other dance or just to freshen up. You can take a break from your levels, the linear sort of progression that most of us do, and just do dance classes. Just do some fun tricks classes or stretch. Like if you're not doing that sort of stuff already, that can be your little break, is so that you sort of reduce the pressure on yourself.
I think that like last bit you just said is probably really good, because like how many of us have been through like a pole funk or we've lost our pole mojo? Like you don't have to stay in that linear progression. You can go do the fun things as well and try to find your love for pole again. And I know before I got the studio, I had that experience. I'm like, I'm just going to do our in-house comp, and if I don't love the experience, then I'm done. Then I brought the studio. So
yeah, she must have loved the experience.
So yeah, it doesn't, like, I think that's really important to remind us all that it can just be re-establishing your love for pole. So, and the last thing, we've already sort of touched on this, but like setting yourself up for success, talking about your membership with studio. What are your options? Do you have to take the whole time off? Can you just pause it? Is there flexibility? Can you come back if you're like, look, I want to take 3 months off to find myself, do something else, whatever. Can you go back? And it's okay to have those conversations. At least then you know where you stand.
Yeah, definitely.
100%. So yeah, that's how to prepare. I went to go, I'm in like instruction mode. I went to go, any questions?
If you do have any questions, though, you feel free to comment and message us on Instagram. We love chatting to you guys.
Love to have a chat and talk to you about maybe why you want to take your break. And there's just so many people who can help you guys here. It doesn't have to be a lonely experience. But in saying that, you are probably going to feel some emotion.
Yeah. It's hard, like, I guess, because what we want to talk about next is like how you feel taking that break, or how that break impacts you emotionally. Because, when you go to pole, you see all your friends. It's like one of the biggest things. That would be the biggest thing for me, more so even than the polling itself, but is seeing everyone. And I have had that in terms of like when I've been, teaching at 2 studios and then sort of teaching at 1 and like moving around, that sort of stuff is like, you don't see people that you used to see every single day, not every day, every single week.
And like friendships are made up of like a couple of different elements too. Like one of it is proximity, a connection maybe through like a hobby or something. And there's another one, but I can't think of what it is off the top of my head. But yeah, like if you take away the proximity and if you're potentially taking the break from pole, like you might feel that it's like, cool, well, if I'm not there and I'm not seeing them all the time and I'm not doing pole, like what do I even talk to these people about? Because all we talk about is pole.
It's similar to like work, work wives and work husbands.
Yes.
It's like when you leave, and everyone's probably experienced this because we all like have probably had multiple jobs before, and you probably will have multiple jobs in your life, that you spend, if you're a full-time worker, you're spending a lot of time with some particular people in the week that you wouldn't do. Look, I love Steph, but like I don't think we've spent that much time together. Like we're still hanging out, but you know what I mean?
Maybe like once a fortnight.
But it's like it gives you like a reason to hang out. Yes. And I know that when I was younger, when I used to work at like Dreamworld and stuff like that, is you just see people there every day and you get quite close with them. Sometimes you hang out outside, but then once I stopped, I sort of stopped those friendships in a way, and they just kind of fizzle off. And I still kind of keep in touch with some people here and there, but it's just not the same.
It's not. And like, it's so funny. I have one that I went to school with, and then we ended up in the same workplace together. Yeah. And after school dropped off, and then when she left the workplace, dropped off. But when she was there, like we were inseparable in both situations. But you just put yourself in, like you share. Anyway, I've had, work mums. Even when my own mum worked in the same building, I still had a work mum. But yeah, like getting busy in life, it's so hard to stay in touch.
And you change, you grow, you know.
And that's okay. Growth is sexy, if you guys have listened to our Pole Identity episode.
It's said by a very wise woman.
It's a Renee original.
It is.
But yeah, like, you might be scared that these things are going to happen. And, you know, having a conversation with the people, I think, is okay, to be like, look, I'm going to take some time off. Why not arrange a coffee or a drink or a lunch or something with them in the break to help you stay connected?
And just be prepared that, like, because everyone does have busy lives, you will probably see these people less, because you see them at Pole, you see them in classes, you know, there's this shared experience.
And convenience.
So, yeah, so it's mainly even just mentally preparing yourself. It's like, okay, I know this is going to happen, and then that's okay.
Yeah. And then, like, with that, you also might be feeling scared about falling behind.
Well, yeah, that's the other thing. Is like, okay, well, if I stop, these people are going to keep going, and potentially when I'm ready to come back, they won't be in my same level. And now, like, you know, there's all these new people.
I find that happens like that sort of higher beginner, early intermediate, because that's probably when they start separating the skills. Like the people who, you know, might be training more than once a week are actually starting
previous dance background,
are starting to like nail things quicker than other people. So that's when you start seeing a separation of groups generally. So yeah, like, but you're not going to see them all the time. So, oh no. I'm still apprenticeship. I'm like, yeah, they're going to move on, they're going to do this. But yeah, you might take the break and you might have to step down a level, or you might have to repeat a level you've done before. So that might also be a bit of a hit to the ego, because you're like, well, I've already done this. And then it's sort of boring and it loses that fun fitness element, because you're like, I've already achieved these tricks. So yeah, and if you are injured, you might be angry, had that experience, emotional, hate your body, but your body's still amazing.
And remember, guys, your body, like, you have this one body to live your whole life in. So you don't want, like, you want to take care of it and foster, like, even a good relationship with your own body as well. So I know it can be easy to get frustrated, especially when you're injured or things don't work and you're just like, oh, like, I just want to, like, I was at this level and I want to get back there, I want to go higher. But, you know, it's just like, that's more of a mindset thing over anything, because there's things that are going to happen that you can't control. And like, I guess, yeah, if you haven't listened to our identity episode, definitely listen to it, because we did speak a little bit about how you see yourself in Pole, and how that can affect you in positive and sort of, like, I'm going to say, unhelpful ways as well.
Yeah, I think unhelpful is a good word.
Yeah.
But yeah, look, it happens, and it is mindset. And I think that's a really good reminder of, like, we are here for the long term. We're not here to smash out tricks and get to the top as quickly as we can, because once upon a time, the top was a jade split, and it just keeps growing and growing and growing. So slow down. Anyway, so you've like, during your break, if you are feeling these things, you know, speak to people. You can reach out for help. Like we said, DM us if you're like, oh, this really sucks. Like, it may suck, and it's okay to feel the emotion in that time. Like, you're not weird for feeling emotions.
There may be ways you can still be involved in your studio, like show nights and stuff like that, performances. You can come along and support. I know that might be too much for someone. You might need to have that complete separation. But if you are, like, if it's the whole injury side of things, you might be able to come in and still be a part of the community in different ways.
We had a girl who had, like, a pretty major surgery recently, and she was just like, popped in, and I was just in the neighborhood, just popping in to say hi. It's like, sure, come in and hang out with us. Like, that's fine. Like, yeah. So, like, those are okay, and that's a community part of Pole too, which is really amazing. So, yeah. So, look, guys, feelings are going to happen. Don't be. Just lean into them and feel them. Like, I don't know.
Just let it happen.
Let it happen. I won't say let it go.
There you go. Yes. It's going to turn into a musical episode now.
I actually got a message about your singing the other day.
Oh, did you?
Yeah.
What?
They're like, I love listening to Renee
attempt to sing.
Yeah, teach class. She's singing. And I'm like, oh, that must be a treat. She's like, it's like yelling with rhythm.
I like it.
I do too. I'm like, I think you nailed it.
I'm very, if anyone knows me, I'm not very in tune with the what are they called? The notes, the sounds. I don't know.
You can tell we're not musical.
And I'm not very good at remembering lyrics either, so it's not a good combination. I can't even sing the right thing, so I'm out of tune, and I'm like, something. But yeah, anyway, I like to sing. So, you're welcome.
It's fun. All right, so if you're taking the break and you're now sort of thinking about returning to pole, you should probably start preparing before you're like, if you can, you should probably start preparing before you are actually ready to go back, because there's nothing worse than being like, I'm ready to go, and they're like, well, we're halfway through our term now, you can't start for another 4 weeks. Just be like,
and I don't know of any studio that has, like, there's no courses to sort of ease you back into things, especially like coming back after pregnancy and stuff like that. It's going to be the same as what it is. A lot of studios are aimed at progressions as well. Like there's no classes, which could be a good idea, but then the market's not there for easing you back in, because you might only need a couple of weeks, maybe a month.
But I guess that's where privates are helpful.
That's what I was going to say, is private lessons is probably a great way, especially if you do click with an instructor, even like a small group private if you have other people that are interested, and then it can be completely tailored to you. And I guess the biggest thing, like in my mind, would be like just identifying, since you have had pole experiences, what are the tricks or what are the moves that you're finding most challenging, what's okay, what do you need to work on, etc., etc. So that would be a really great way of doing that without that disheartened feeling of going to a tricks class and then going, oh, I can't do this anymore, or, this is really difficult where all these people are getting it really easy. Of course they are, they're coming every single week.
And I know I did that when I came back. I've had a couple of like on and off breaks since I'm in the studio, and I was just doing privates with Renee. And yet that was good, because I'm not necessarily, when you look at the levels in our studio, I'm not necessarily the advanced level in everything, but I can still do all my handsprings and stuff. So it's like, you're so unique when you come back sometimes, especially with pregnancy. You are so unique, so you probably can't invert, but you could probably do an Aisha. Like, it's weird. So though, by doing privates or even semi-privates, if you have somebody else, like that might just help you ease in, because if you jump into a level or a structured course, it could like make you go, I'm never taking a break ever again, because if I take a break, I'm this and this and this.
I would also suggest go like a level lower than what you think that you want to do, or like definitely don't go into the same level you were in before. And again, this is all very relative, like it depends.
It's all generalized.
Thoughts, but I go drop down 1 or 2 just to get you moving again, and it'll probably make you feel really good, because you're like, okay, I need to move, I need to do this stuff again. You're refreshing the basics, you're getting that like really on top of that, and then you'll find that that progression or getting back into it will be a lot smoother process, rather than struggling for so long, and then eventually maybe being like, oh, okay. Because the risk of injury is going to be a lot higher when you've done nothing, or depending on if you're already injured, the risk of injury coming back is a lot higher as well. So
yeah, and if you are injured, make sure you're speaking to the professionals you're working with, whether that's a physio, an exercise physiologist, a GP, or whatever, an osteo. There's so many options. A lot
of them will even chat to your instructor as well. Like I know I've had a chat to a few physios, and just been like, okay, like just sort of confirm things like, yeah, this is good, this is not good for them to do, blah, blah, blah.
And if that is the case, they can write something down to be able to give that to your instructor or your studio to help you do it. And also, if you are returning an injury, do you need clearance? Have a chat to your studio. Have also chat to them about memberships, like when can you start, when can you kick back off, all those types of things. What do you need to actually start returning through? Communication is too much. Communication is always way better than not enough, but you just get frustrated. And this could potentially already be a trying time for coming back into the studio after your break. Obviously, if you've been on holidays, you're probably refreshed, you might be tanned, you might be, I don't know, sore, tired, still need another holiday. So they're probably a lot easier, and you probably had those conversations prior to leaving But these are probably really helpful for those returns that might be after a much more prolonged period. And, you know, some people do also take breaks just to finish off uni degrees and stuff. So these are all relevant there. But yeah, plan something fun. Find your love again. Like, especially if you're taking a break because you can't find your pole mojo, find something fun or do something different. If you're not a choreo person and you're a tricks person, go to a choreo class, because that's going to give you that beginner feeling again, which I think we just get so lost when you pole. So,
yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Sure.
And last of all, what may happen when you return?
We kind of touched on some of this.
We did.
Obviously, but like lost a bit of strength. Skin conditioning is the biggest one.
That is the worst.
Your hands would have got nice and soft. I was speaking to some like newbie beginners last night, and they're like, oh, like, what should I do? Should I moisturize my hands? I'm like, you know what? Actually, having some calluses and having a bit rough hands adds to the grip to the pole. And they were like, so I shouldn't moisturize ever. I'm like, I didn't say that, but it's just like you don't. And she's like, oh, I was trying to keep my hands nice and soft because I knew that they were going to get harder. And it depends what you do. I had someone bring up that they massage people for a living and they can't have like a massive callus on their arm, on their hand, because that's. And I just said to her, well, why don't you offer an exfoliating massage instead? No.
I was going to be like, did you offer her like gloves or something?
I don't see gloves around much anymore.
No.
But yeah, so it's the softness of their hands I find is the biggest one that people don't remember.
Yeah.
But also like skin grip and conditioning on the pole. It's going to be pinchy. It's going to hurt. A little bit of loss of strength as well. Like we said before, your friends might be in a different level to you.
Things may have changed in the studio too.
Ownership may have changed. Instructors, you have the new instructors. It feels like, you know, might feel a little bit different. I know a lot of people go, oh, it doesn't feel the same. But embrace. Like, I think that change is always going to happen. And, like, the more that we can learn to sort of try and embrace it, the better off you're going to be, because you might not have a choice at the end of the day.
I agree, and I think it's about building resilience. Yeah. And, you know, even if you just take a mini break because you're like, my body's fatigued and, like, it's taking longer to heal, like, or get better. Not heal. What's the word? Like, you know, when you have sore muscles and you're just like, my body feels like,
Recover?
Yeah, thank you. Recovery.
Okay.
Recovery is exactly. It might take longer to recover, so you might just need to take a week or two off. And doing it in small chunks is probably going to be really good for you. So
your pole journey is your own. And that's the thing. It doesn't have to be like, all the time, every single week, you know, whatever. You have a life outside of pole, but you can also stop and come back, and you can do pole forever.
I'm just thinking about that, actually. Like, you and I both started at the same time, different studios, but we both started at the same time. We're both now done, 10 years in pole. But we're both completely different. And but our journeys, we're still in it, we're still doing it, and our journeys are just so... And there was probably a time where we were very similar, and now we're just like...
We were in the same class for a bit, and then we sort of, separated.
So I think we're probably two really good examples of how you can still prolong your journey.
Wow, have I known... Oh, I haven't known you for 10 years.
No, you haven't.
I was like, sweet.
No, I think next year's like the 10 years for the studio, so there you go. Anyway, so that's our list. That's how you can prepare to take a break successfully. If you're thinking about taking a break, if you've had a break, you want something to contribute to this episode, guys, come chat to us at uncovered.pd on Instagram. That's where we spend most of our time. We're obviously on YouTube. You can see us showing our hands when we're talking about calluses. Just come hang out with us over there, and we look forward to talking to you all again soon. Bye.
Bye.